So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I usually post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, and I know I'm a day late, but we're here nonetheless. But this is the series where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the conference finals have been underway, and both series have honestly been one-sided affairs, with the NBA Finals matchup starting to shape up, so we still definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game where you select 2 to 6 players and guess if they will hit more or less than their projection. And if you get it right, you can win. Plus, with their new Demons and Goblins lines, you can now win up to 100 times your original lineup. Obviously, we're all basketball fans here, but PrizePicks has almost every sport you can think of available to choose from and play. To add to the fun, they also offer frequent bonuses, discounts, and weekly promotions, such as Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday, plus so many more specialty free spaces to watch for throughout the year, so you don't want to miss those. For the next slate of games, I'm going with Luka Doncic to score over 30.5 points, TJ McConnell to dish out fewer than 7 assists, and Andrew Nembhard to make over 1.5 threes in this week's lineup. To sign up, go down to the link in the description and use promo code REFERENCE when you sign up to get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Gregory, and he says that if the Celtics don't win it all this year, then they should just blow it up, or at the very least trade one of their 2 main stars. So the playoffs this year have definitely given us an incredible amount of excitement in each series so far, but unfortunately had bad luck strike in almost every team that has bowed out to this point. The injury bug tends to affect a few teams' chances every year, but this postseason, it seems to be in overdrive, as almost the entire Eastern Conference has been marred by big-name players hampered by injury. Guys that have missed time this postseason or had to play through serious injury include Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, Joel Embiid, Donovan Mitchell, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Jarrett Allen, Jimmy Butler, and Tyrese Halliburton. It's hard to say this without sounding like I'm trying to discredit them, because obviously they can only play the matchup in front of them and they can't do anything about all of their top competition being hampered. But literally everything is setting the Celtics up for the easiest run to an NBA Finals we've seen in a very long time. Of course, the Celtics were the team to beat in the East comfortably this year, so nobody's saying they don't deserve to be in this position, but the main argument at this point in their run is that this is probably the best chance this core will ever have at winning a title, so they need to get it done. Both conference finals series right now are currently at 3-0, with the Mavericks seeming like a lock to be the Celtics' opposition in the NBA Finals, so I can't possibly imagine a better opportunity to win a ring than the Celtics have right now. Ever since the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown era has begun, the Celtics have been one of the best teams in the East every year, but they have never been able to get over the hump to this point. This offseason, the Celtics arguably had the best offseason of any team, bringing in Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, who is expected to be back for the NBA Finals, to give an already great team even more firepower, and from the very beginning of the season, they've been the favorites to take it home. They are the better team on paper than Dallas, they have players at every position that can perform at an all-star level on any given night, and their depth easily outmatches the Mavericks too. If the Celtics can't win a ring with all of that going for them, then I'm not necessarily sure they will make big changes, but it's going to be hard not to think something is wrong with the fit of Tatum and Brown as the top dogs on a contender. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Nafan, and he says that Anthony Edwards has become insanely overrated. One thing I want to start off by saying is that the NBA playoffs are easily the time of the year where overreactions and recency bias hits an all-time high. People will fire off absurd takes every single day that change rapidly game to game, and nobody ever seems to keep anything in perspective of the big picture anymore. It's obviously the most prevalent on social media, but even the people in the national media with the biggest platforms in this space seem to change their opinions 4 times a week about a topic. This all leads us to this take about Anthony Edwards becoming vastly overrated here, and to a degree, he's honestly right, but at the same time, Edwards has become a victim to the exact phenomena I just explained. Coming into the postseason, Edwards was a breakout rising star beginning to prove himself as one of the best shooting guards in the league. He's incredibly exciting, he has a great personality that makes him easy to root for, and he's had some elite performances on the way to leading the Wolves to the conference finals. All of that warrants a ton of hype for a 22-year-old, but during that time, he was literally being compared to Michael Jordan by damn near every national media outlet, and I'm sorry, but that's clearly an example of a player being overrated. Now 3 games into the conference finals, Edwards has not played nearly as well, and his team is down 0 games to 3. So you see the same people who were calling him Michael Jordan now saying that he's overrated, and that's what I have the biggest problem with. The hypocrisy that dominates this space is tiresome, the hot takes need to be reeled back and held in check, and praise can be warranted without needing to go overboard. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Uncut, and he says that this year's draft class is the weakest since 2013. It's so funny how people can be so sure about a draft class and say definitive statements like this before the players even get drafted. The draft has always been one of my favorite things to follow as a basketball fan, monitoring the young guys who will be up next. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard this same thing said about countless other draft classes that ended up actually being stellar in the long run. Even going back to that 2013 draft class mentioned in this take, guys were definitely calling it historically weak at the time, and in hindsight, there were quite a few busts at the top that probably make those guys feel justified, but that draft class actually ended up producing some elite talent to balance things out, with the best players from that year easily clearing quite a few other draft classes. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a multiple-time MVP and an NBA champion. Rudy Gobert is tied for the most Defensive Player of the Year award wins in NBA history. CJ McCollum has had a consistently solid career as a scorer. Victor Oladipo was an all-star in his prime, and quite a few other highly impactful role players came from that draft class as well. This year's draft class is similar to 2013 in that there is no clear-cut home run of a top prospect to set and take over like there are in most other years. That doesn't mean that this year's draft class won't produce a ton of other players that will end up making it big when it's all said and done, and if anything, it's probably better when a general manager actually needs to go the extra mile to scope out some hidden gems if they want a real edge over the competition. A draft class like this will show us which scouting reports and which front offices scout talents well and which ones don't, because there will be stars to come from this draft, it's just not as obvious which ones it will be like it was last year with Victor Wembanyama. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.